educational sector will inevitably have to change quite a lot due to new technology, given the fact that students have already today access to technology and use laptops and mobile phones during class, for example. We need to make sure that we can use that in a good and constructive way in the teaching process rather than sort of preventing them from using this technology. Students can go to a website and download lectures from MIT or Stanford and have a look at and relate the things we're doing and talking about to things that they've seen in this way. I believe that the criticism towards ICT that many push forward is for sure valid, that the heavy use of technology, heavy excessive uses of games and so forth are not in all positive for you. But if you just watch the simple positive effects of using technology, for example, with children in learning to produce text, we can clearly see that children, if they can use a tablet or an iPad to write text rather than writing it by hand, they will produce longer texts, 50% longer text on average. They will use longer words and a more distinguished language. And particularly this is valid for boys to a larger extent than for girls to be able to do this. And in a society where we see that girls mainly has a head start in relation to boys in the educational system, I think to be able to focus on the use of technology to acquire skills is a good and necessary thing, despite the fact that there are risks involved with these things.
Good morning, parents, carers and guardians, to what we hope is not a frightening but a fulfilling opportunity to address the implementation of ICT into our Year 3 classrooms. For those of you that have not yet crossed paths with us, I'm Miss Kirk.
And I'm Miss Sullivan.
As seen in the video, the rapid changes in today's technological world mean that if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. With this in mind, the implementation of technology within the classroom has never been more important. It is because of this reason that we find ourselves here today. Today's presentation aims to inform you about the various uses of ICT in the teaching and learning of mathematics. We are looking forward to exploring this extensive learning tool with you today and hope by the end of the session we are all aboard the ICT train. If we go back to a period in time where digital technology didn't exist, educational reformers declared that learning came from experience and active involvement by the learner. Now, if we fast forward into a 21st century classroom, it is evident that that declaration has stood the test of time. It has done this in much the same way that traditional methods of teaching mathematics are still used today. The only difference now being these methods can be enhanced by a learning tool known as ICT.
When we talk about the school environment being a place of learning, it is important that we acknowledge the way in which children learn and the opportunities that we can provide them with to optimise their learning. It is our belief that learning is truly optimised when it is authentically practiced and encouraged within the home environment as well. What this highlights to us as the educators and parents and carers of these children is that there is an evident need for a reciprocal relationship where a united front can be established and maintained. To build the foundations for this relationship, it is imperative that we are taking the same focus towards the children's learning. When peering through the lens to consider how students learn, we often find ourselves applying many filters. Initially, we apply our readiness lens to examine what a student is capable of as a result of their age and interaction with their environment. But when the complexity of the learning stems beyond the clarity of this lens, we must trial other lenses to enhance our focus. This requires us to consider the environment of the children and how our communication with them and guidance as more knowledgeable others can enhance their concept development. As a result, the picture of each child's learning journey, although fundamentally similar, is compiled using a kaleidoscope of filters that showcases how students construct their learning in unique ways. Now, we could sit here all day and throw all of the technological jargon and learning theory in the world at you. But we know, and we know that you know, as the parents and carers of these students, as learners yourselves, that we best learn through communicating, using our hands on objects, visual representations, and then using this knowledge to bridge a relationship towards the abstract in order to build an understanding of basic concepts.
If there's anything we took away from our 4 years at university, you'll be pleased to know that it is in fact acquiring a decent understanding of the way in which students learn. Now, I know we said before no learning theory, but if we could ask you to switch to a critical thinking lens for just a moment, we're going to hit you with some facts. Language, or in other words, talking, plays a crucial role in students developing an understanding of mathematical concepts. I know what you're thinking. We spend half our time telling students to sit down and be quiet, and now we're saying, chat away. Across all ages, in particular the early years, the foundation of communicating and learning through narrative or storytelling builds the foundation to students to obtain the learned levels of mathematical concepts, known as concrete, pictorial, and abstract. I mean, we've all heard the classic, if Johnny had 4 apples and he ate 1, how many apples does Johnny have left? CPA is a highly regarded method to teaching students mathematical concepts that focuses on a progression through 3 stages. This progression is not strictly linear, so the general consensus is that with the support of communication, students should be first introduced to a mathematical concept through being provided the opportunity to manipulate and play with hands-on objects or concrete materials, such as pattern blocks, interlocking cubes, and coloured tiles.
Following this, concept development is further explored through the transition to pictorial representations such as images, pictures, and drawings. Within the final stage of the method, students are introduced to symbols and begin to establish firm connections between their concrete and abstract understandings. Although this is a sound method of mathematical instruction, it is important that we stress to you that students learn and progress at different speeds. Therefore, the steps are best viewed as a fluid process. We are inclined to say that this method of instruction is, in fact, one of those approaches that has withstood the trials of time. So it is important to note that the inclusion of ICTs in learning is not to be mistaken as a matter of switching out old lenses, such as CPA, to make room for the new. But more specifically, it is the process of enhancing these traditional lenses to extend learning opportunities, increase engagement, promote student agency and collaboration, and improve educational outcomes as a whole. Now, let's just backtrack a moment. What actually are ICTs and how are they going to help your children learn mathematics? ICTs, which stands for Information and Communication Technologies, encompasses a variety of technological tools and resources for the purpose of communicating, storing, creating, and managing information. Examples of these types of technology are embedded into our daily lives, inclusive of our mobile phones, iPads, laptops, watches, interactive whiteboards, and so on. Some of you may be well versed in the use of these tools, whereas others may be terrified at the thought of even composing a text message. And we get that too. The thing is, unlike us, these children were born into this rapidly changing world, and as a result, they are digital natives. I'm sure most of us can agree that these children certainly know their way around a smartphone or iPad much better than a 50-year-old. And I say that not with a negative connotation, but with a wealth of potential that should not be left untapped.
Globally known as Generation Z, but colloquially referred to as the generation of digital natives. As hard as it might be to come to terms with, we have to acknowledge the role that technology plays in not only a modern classroom, but also modern society. We go to school with the aim of getting a good education. That, in theory, should allow us to become successful within contemporary society. But in order for our education to deliver this, it's imperative that our classroom provides students with opportunities to learn both with and from ICT in order for them to be able to survive in our technologically sophisticated world. To help explain the concept of how children learn both with and from ICT, we thought we'd uncover what some schools illustrate to be a bit of a taboo topic. So here we present you with the requirements and achievement standards for Year 3. We've shown you these because for you to be able to understand what we are doing, we think it helps if you know why we're doing it. By the end of this year, our students are expected to be able to classify, represent, recognise, solve, identify and compare a large array of mathematical concepts. And to put it bluntly, they will not achieve this without the use of ICTs. By the end of this year, our students are expected to be able to interpret and compare displays, conduct data investigations, classify numbers as either odd or even, and represent money values in various ways. By pulling achievement standards straight from the mathematics curriculum, we can now show you some brilliant examples of how we are using ICT that directly aims to enhance the student's ability in relation to these standards.
As mentioned, one of the focuses of the mathematics curriculum is to have students collect, represent and analyse data using various displays. If we as educators are to truly provide students with learning experiences that support them to interpret and understand data in real-world scenarios, we must authentically utilise ICTs within lessons. For example, as can be seen in the presentation, infographics and graphing tools are indispensable in supporting students to collect, analyse and recognise patterns in data. Graphing tools, such as those provided in word processing software or Excel, can be displayed on an interactive whiteboard and used collectively by students and teachers to co-construct data representations. Similarly, by using online infographics or even creating infographics with students, learners can begin to recognise the trends in data as well as make connections between diverse types of representation. Not only does this use of ICTs support students in achieving curriculum outcomes, it also creates a visual representation of learning that appeals to the modern day learner, acting to increase engagement levels. This ICT also allows for a degree of student choice and creativity that boosts the levels of student agency in learning. Although a brief example, it is clear how the inclusion of ICTs in the form of graphing programs and infographics can be displayed using interactive technology establishes a positive, engaging and student-centered learning environment.
One particular area of interest and more controversially debate among parents is the use of game-based learning. I'll now pause for a moment for you to digest this, as I imagine thoughts similar to, what could my child possibly be learning from playing a game, are potentially running through your head. Well, ladies and gentlemen, mums and dads, parents and carers, the answer is a hell of a lot. It's no secret that the study of mathematics finds itself to be perceived as a boring and irrelevant fact by both children and probably parents as well. So when we introduce mathematical game-based learning, it creates a way for us to make math fun and engaging, sparking interest and encouraging higher order thinking. While the implementation of game-based learning can sometimes be perceived as a time filler for teachers, it's important that I take this opportunity now to distinguish that ICT in the classroom is not to be used as a trivial time filler or what is known as busy work. In fact, it's a fundamental tool we use to provide students with a deeper insight into mathematical concepts through a familiar environment. If I can direct your attention to the presentation, I can offer a simple example of the way a digital game can be used as both a learning and assessment tool. Highlighting achievement standards, that is, these students classify numbers as either odd or even. The coconut odd or even game demonstrated within the presentation is a perfect way in which an ICT is used in a meaningful context. If I can ask you now to pull out your smartphones and get your cameras up, through the use of another digital tool, this QR code, you are able to immediately access and utilize this resource. This means for you that anywhere you and your phone can go becomes a place where your child can learn.
Similar to that of game-based learning, and often mistaken as its identical twin, is the use of simulations in mathematical learning. A simulation can be best described as a generalized imitation of a process or operation within a variety of contexts to support the acquisition of a new skill or understanding. Within the Year 3 learning context, simulations can be seen as a valuable resource for supporting our students in developing concepts surrounding money values in various ways. Using simulation programs to experiment with money is a valuable use of resources as not only do they align with the curriculum content, but also make valuable use of software and devices. For example, if you direct your attention to the presentation, you will see the Pay the Price simulation. This simulation provides students the opportunity to engage with a variety of math concepts simultaneously, such as repeated addition and monetary values within a context that is nearly identical to a real-life scenario. This use of ICTs not only assists students in achieving curriculum outcomes, but also creates a meaningful context for learning that boosts student engagement and agency.
Great shopping! You've bought all the items. Do you want to shop again?
Now, I know we've been harping on for a while now, but if you can flick your mind back to the beginning of our presentation, you will recall that we mentioned the need for us as educators and you as the parents and carers of the students to present as a united front. This means that we must work together to support children in learning with and from ICTs to develop their mathematical proficiencies and understanding. We understand that this may appear daunting to some of you, and as country-born and raised women, trust us, using technology has not always been our strong point. However, we hope that you will take the time to consider the following strategies that we propose will reinforce our united front and ultimately will utilise ICTs to support your children in achieving improved learning outcomes.
Our first strategy to assist you as parents and carers to be involved in your child's mathematical education is, as we speak, being rolled out as a school-wide communication initiative, a Year 3 class dojo. And no, when I say dojo, we're not talking about the martial arts meditation training zone. We're talking about high-performing communication platforms that connect teachers, students, and families. When signed up to Dojo, students receive an exciting virtual character that can be awarded points for achieving task and learning specific goals. Similarly, using tools, ideas, and energy, the digital platform also aims to improve all children's education by allowing educators to share students' learning and achievements through an instant messaging system. More specifically, within mathematics education, this means not only will your students be motivated to learn through the engaging reward system, but we will be able to readily send you updates on your students' learning levels and achievements, as well as provide you with access to first-class digital learning resources to optimize your students' learning and to think all of this is just one click away. It is with the Dojo system in mind that I would like you to introduce you to our second strategy, the use of QR codes. A QR code is a unique machine scannable image comprised of small black dots and squares. Working much the same as a barcode you would see while grabbing your groceries at the supermarket, a QR code can be scanned using the camera on your smartphone or other smart devices. Upon scanning, the code translates the information held by the black markings into something easily read and understood by us humans, who do not speak machine. You might be wondering what this means for you and your child and their mathematical education. Well, as you saw earlier, we can link the ICTs we use in the classroom to these codes to allow you to instantly and easily access these resources. For example, please, once again, pull out your smartphones and scan these codes. The readily available access to online resources or even set learning tasks extends and enhances the opportunity for your students to learn through the use of ICTs and also effectively involves you in your students' mathematical learning journey. Although we could elaborate further on strategies for incorporating learning with and from ICTs on the home front, we do not wish to take up too much more of your time. So please see the flyer being handed out around for further details on strategies outlined and other potential avenues.
Well, that certainly was a mouthful. We cannot express enough our gratitude towards you for taking the time to attend today's presentation. As educators, we, the same as you, only want the best for your children's education. And with the school's decision to focus on developing learning with and from information and communication technologies throughout the learning areas, it is paramount to us that you, as the most influential and important people in our students' lives, understand the hows and the whys of ICTs in mathematics. To summarise today's presentation, we present you with some key points to take away.
Once again, we thank you for all those who took the time to attend. We would hate for those of you who could not attend today to feel disadvantaged.
But thanks to the ease of communication and access provided by ICTs, we are happy to inform you that this presentation has been recorded and will be readily available alongside all of the visual information within the link provided on your flyer. We would now like to open the floor to you for any questions you may have.